All right, welcome back. This is module 10 of the Fix and Flip course. And in this module, we are going to be talking about the remodeling system. So I'm excited to dive into some of the other elements of the remodeling system that are going to help you be able to reduce your risk and increase your scale of your fix and flip business. Now, before we dive too far into the content here, let's go through the disclosure. I'm not a licensed attorney, accountant, financial advisor, real estate broker, or real estate agent. I am just an investor and a student like you. I just have developed and used these systems over the last several years of being an investor, and I've found a lot of success with them. So I'm going to share them with you. Let's dive in. So step number one of the remodeling system is the template. I've alluded to this a little bit in the previous module, but let's go ahead and dive in and talk about the template. You want to create a standardized template of materials that is used on every fix and flip you do. And the reason for doing that is so that you can scale. If you have to spend weeks designing each and every fix and flip you do, that's going to cut back on the scale that you can do fix and flips at. So instead of being able to do 10 at a time, you might only be able to do 2 at a time because you're spending so much time on design. It's back to our aces in their places ideology. If you need to bring in, if design is not your forte and you need to bring in a designer, bring them in once, but then use that same stuff on every property that you do for the rest of the year, right? So create that standardized template and then stick to it. And, it's something that is going to allow you to scale. It's also going to save you money because then you can start buying the products in bulk. Because if you don't use all of them in this project, you'll just use the leftovers in the next project, right? So you can start moving the leftovers into the next project, which will save you money because you're buying in bulk. It'll also save on the amount of waste, and wasted materials is just wasted money, right? So it's going to streamline the amount of time that you spend on design. Now, your template is going to be just the materials themselves. Obviously, each house has a unique floor plan, has a unique design. So the floor plan and design is going to change, or the floor plan is going to change house to house. So that may affect how many cabinets, as an example, you have to put into a house. But you know that it's the same cabinet that you put into the last house, if that makes sense. So you in house number 1, you may have to put in 12 cabinets. In house number 2, you may have to put in 15 cabinets, but because it's a different floor plan, but it's the same cabinet, it's the same product, right? So that's going to help you streamline your design as you're building the scalability of your fix and flip business. It may include paint colors, cabinets, countertops, plumbing and electrical fixtures, which would include light fixtures, carpet, tile. I talked about in the last module how I use the same toilet in every bathroom, no matter what. It cost me $100 at Home Depot. Like that, that's what we want to do as we're creating this template. And, it's something that at first people say, well, don't people start to realize when, you paint the outside of every house gray and you paint the interior of every house the same color and use it? No, you're rarely going to fix and flip houses that are right next to each other. I've never done it. Of the over 60 fix and flips that I've done now, not once have I ever had a property that was right next door to another property that I had done as a fix and flip. So, it's usually these properties are separated by miles, and you and your contractors are the only ones that know that it's the same materials going into every house. So I have 3 very similar templates that are designated for low end, mid range, and high end. And where those vary, the paint color is the exact same in each demographic. The cabinets, I've got a specific cabinet for the low end, but then my mid-range and high end. And usually with cabinets, I divide kind of down the middle of the mid-range. The lower mid-range, I put the low-end cabinets in. The higher mid-range, I put the high-end cabinets in. Countertops, low end's going to be laminate. Mid-range is usually going to be granite. High-end's usually going to be quartz or granite. So, but you can put the same quartz, granite, or laminate into those different templates, and then just repeat from house to house. Fixtures, like I said in the last module, just make sure the fixtures are current with current design trends. If brass is popular right now, don't put oil rub bronze in. Just because it's cheaper. Go with the brass, right? Or if Satin nickel is popular right now. Don't put brass in because satin nickel is popular. Or same with chrome, or same with other finishes that you can get. While I'm recording this, what's popular in fix and flips that I'm doing right now is brushed gold. So, and it's not real gold, but it looks like brushed gold, right? So I'm putting brushed gold or black into all of the homes that I'm doing. Whereas, 2 years ago, I was putting satin nickel into all the homes. So you will be updating your templates, and usually, this is a bullet point in the next slide, but usually about once a year you have to update that template. But during that year, every house gets the same treatment, right, inside of that template based on the demographic. Having a standardized template will help you budget. If you don't know what's going to go into that house because you're redesigning every house you're doing, then budgeting is going to be a nightmare. You're going to have to go get price checks on every single material every single time. But if you only have to do that once, and then that carries through to the next house, then you already have that prepared, and budgeting's easy for that next house. All it is quantity that you're having to capture, because you already know what the product is and what the price is. It's going to help you budget, it's going to help you plan, and it's going to help you manage the project more efficiently, especially when you're operating at scale, meaning more than one property at a time. Review the template at least annually and make changes as necessary to keep up with the times. I've never had to completely redesign my template when I go to that annual review of the template. I usually just make small little tweaks. If I see that one finish on a fixture is more prominent than the finish that I was using last year, then I'll just adjust, and I'll, like for example, we went from satin nickel to black and from black to brushed gold. That was just one change that I made in the template at my annual review of the template. I like to attend home trade shows and home touring shows to see what materials are used at least once a year, to see the color schemes, the styles, all of those things that are being used in those new homes that are being showcased in the home touring shows or the home trade shows. So attend those. Plan on attending those at least annually, if not more often, and tweak your template as needed. Don't tweak it too much. Don't tweak it on a weekly basis, because then you're going to frustrate your contractors. Don't tweak it on a per property basis, because then that defeats the purpose of having a template, in the first place. But maybe annually is a really good benchmark to say, okay, the trade show or the touring show in my area happens once a year on this month. So every year on this month, we're going to tweak the template and update it with changes. And some years you may not even have to change it at all. So, just be aware of it and review it on at least an annual basis. Be sure to keep your pricing in check when you update your template. So, for example, I used the example before of we went from satin nickel to black. When we did that, we had to make sure that we found black fixtures that were of a similar price to the satin nickel fixtures, so that we weren't affecting our ability to budget for these properties as we plugged in these changes. So that may be a little bit of work you have to do on the front end, but once you have that in place, it should work for the rest of the year till you do another template review. But having a template is going to help you scale, and it's also going to allow you to be able to minimize the amount of time that you put into each and every project. Minimize the time. It's also going to save you money, so it's never a bad thing. Let's move on to item number 2 in the remodeling system. That's the budget. So follow your quick analysis and budget to the letter. Your quick analysis is something that you do before you even buy the property, and you should be incorporating the materials from the template and your bids on the labor from your contractors into that quick analysis. But once that quick analysis eventually turns into a budget, and the budget is what you need to stick to in order to make sure that you receive the profit that you're looking for. Your profit can act as a slush fund for construction overages, but only to the point of your minimum desired profit. So let's say that you have a minimum desired profit, like me, of $30,000 per fix and flip. If you have some overages in some areas, let's say they break into a wall and they see that some electrical was done poorly and needs to be redone, and that's going to cost you $1,000. Well, rather than going back and raising an extra $1,000, I know that my profit margin has $30,000 in it. That 1,000 can come out of that profit margin and decrease my profit to $29,000. I'm okay with that to a certain point, but you need to always remember your minimum desired profit, and make decisions on things that need to be done that come up after you've purchased the property, keeping in mind that those overages are just going to be coming out of your pocket in the form of the profit that you're distributed at the end of the deal. Always, always, always stick to the system. Don't be tempted to do things to the property that won't force appreciation in the house. Don't put in swing sets. Don't put in pools. Don't go overboard on that kind of stuff, because some people don't want swing sets and some people don't want pools. Do the things that we talked about, those 5 areas. That's where you should be spending money, because those are the areas that force appreciation in the house. Other than that, don't spend money on anything outside of those 5 areas. And then keep in mind, don't just budget your money. Also budget your time. Know how much time that you're willing to spend on each and every project, knowing that your responsibility should be that of an investor in finding, funding, negotiating, and closing on deals. So budget your time in the project. I've got a pretty hard set rule with my contractors. I will be there on Friday. I tour my properties, my fix and flips on Fridays. Friday afternoons, that's my scheduled time. I usually only spend 15 to 20 minutes in each property. So it only takes me a few hours to get through all of them, including travel time. But budget your money, budget your time, right? Make sure that you're not spending too much time in the weeds on these fix and flips, because that's the job of your contractor. That's the job of your general contractor, your subcontractors, and your other professionals and aces in their places, right? So number 3 is project management. So as part of the remodeling system, project management is so important. So let's dive into that a little bit. Reference your long analysis. And in order to understand what I'm talking about with long analysis, go back and watch the off-market deals on tap class. That is going to be so important and is an extension of the systems that we're talking about in the fix and flip. Look, if we're looking at the timeline of doing a fix and flip from your inception of your desire to do a fix and flip all the way to the point of doing one and selling it, buying the property comes in about halfway through. The first half of doing a fix and flip is finding it, funding it, analyzing it, and all those things. Those skills are taught in the off-market deals on tap class. The skills that are taught in this class mostly focus on things that you need to do after you've purchased the property to the point of selling it. So to get the full picture, make sure that you've watched that off-market deals on tap class. Make sure that an inspection is performed on the property. Review the inspection and either back out or move forward. Review the inspection with the contractor to create a written remodel plan. Obtain bids from required subcontractors, your electrician, your plumber, your HVAC specialists, your tile guy, your sheetrock guy, your framer, all of those things. Make sure that you get bids. Submit supplies list to suppliers for estimates. The way that I like to pay contractors is only on labor. We talked about that in the picking contractors module in module 7. We talked about paying them once the milestones are done. Well, that only works if you're providing the materials for them, because otherwise you got to pay them up front for the materials, and then we get into that risk of them, just disappearing with your money. So have an account set up at one of the big box home repair stores, and make it so that they can call you and say, hey, we need to stop in and buy this and this, and you can call in and just approve the transaction at the point of purchase, and that just goes right onto your credit card or right onto your debit card, whatever the case might be. But you should be providing the materials, because A, you can push materials that were left over from a previous project, and B, it allows you to pay your contractors in a way that manages them well. So having a supplies list and submitted to suppliers once the estimates are done That's just going to have those things ready for them when they need to go get them. And because you're using a template that's the same on every property, there shouldn't be too much question once you've worked with contractors on a couple of deals, which again, relationships, right? You want to use these people over and over again because they're going to learn the template and they're going to need less training as time goes on, fewer questions, more time for you. So using the same construction team and contractors as you go through the process is only going to help with the time and the money factor on your end and to your benefit. So create a budget based on the property analysis and bids. Turn on and off the utilities. So make sure when you buy the property, the day you buy the property, call the power, gas, water companies, etc., and put the utilities in your name. And the day you sell the property, do the same thing and turn them off, right? So that the new buyer can come in and put them in their name. But you don't want to be charged for electricity or water or gas that the new buyer is using. And you don't want to get in trouble for, and get into a lawsuit over power and gas and water that you've used from the previous owner's name staying on the account. Just be proactive about your utilities. Obtain insurance the day you close or before. Insurance is so important. Insurance is the investor's best friend. Somebody else, look, we want to talk about how to reduce risk in real estate. Insurance, that's the definition of the insurance. You're paying someone else to take the risk. You're transferring the risk to the insurance company because if something happens, you say, hey, pay for this, and they do it, right? That's a really scaled down definition of what insurance is. But in essence, that's what it is. You're transferring the risk to a different individual for a small fee. So make sure you get insurance. Change locks and install a security system. Order a dumpster. I have my contractors do that. Order a porta potty. I have my contractors do that if it's needed. A lot of times we'll just leave the old toilet in place until we're ready to replace it for the new toilet. Obtain required permits. I have my contractor do that, so it saves me time. Post a copy of the remodel plan and the inspection at the property. Just make sure you don't have numbers on there because if they can see how much you're making on the property, some contractors get jealous and want a piece of it. So make sure that there's no numbers on it, but do post a copy of the remodel plan and the inspection report at the property. And then start your demolition process. Once you've started the demolition process, then you're going to meet with the contractors and the subcontractors during that demo process to discuss your plans, your bids, and any questions that you or the contractors have, and giving them answers to those questions. And that's going to go into detail on framing, drywall, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, flooring, cabinets, surfaces like granite, formica, quartz, laminate, etc. Once you've had that meeting and you've discussed all of those plans, you've got your quantities together on what you need for each one of those properties, order your supplies and schedule the delivery so that the supplies are on site. I like to use the garage at the property, if it has one, as a staging area for all of those supplies. So we can just have it on site and the contractors can just grab them and use them as they're needed. That helps with the timeline. Create a schedule with the contractors and the subcontractors. Make sure they have everything they need when they need it. Reconcile your budget at least weekly. Make sure that your numbers are on point. If you only reconcile your budget once at the end of a project and you're off, it's too late. But you can start to see discrepancies if you're budgeting at least weekly and you're reconciling your budget at least weekly. You can start to see discrepancies and patterns, and they're easier to correct if you're doing that on a weekly basis. I recommend purchasing the materials for the contractors, like we talked about. Just make sure you're on top of it. Don't make them wait around for you. That's bad for everybody. That means the contractors aren't working. Which means that it's delaying them getting paid. That means that your progress on your fix and flip properties come to a halt. That's not good for you. That's not good for your bottom line. So just make sure that you're on top of it and then pay your contractors weekly. Communication is key. Now, on the remodel outline, you want to make sure that you have instructions in place for all of the following: framing, your rough electrical, your rough mechanical, and your rough plumbing. Now, what do we mean by rough? That means that's on rough electrical, that's the wires in the wall. Those go in before sheetrock. With mechanical, those are the vents inside the wall or the ceilings. That goes in before sheetrock. The rough plumbing are the pipes inside the wall. That goes in before sheetrock, right? So framing, electrical, rough mechanical, rough plumbing, insulation, drywall, roofing, finish carpentry, paint, tile, cabinets. And finish carpentry, by the way, is like your moldings, your baseboards, your casing around the doors, your doors themselves. Then after that, paint, tile, cabinets, countertops, flooring, carpet. Your finish electrical, which is going to be like your outlets, your light switches, your light fixtures, light bulbs, etc. Your finish mechanical, which is going to be your vent registers that go in the wall or in the floor and the ceiling. Your finish plumbing, which is going to be your faucets, your drains on sinks, etc. Your finish carpentry, they're coming back just touching up, making sure that they patch any holes that were made in the walls by other contractors that were in there. Then your paint touch up, and then your final cleaning. Your project management outline should go in this order and should have instructions for each one of those people to make sure that they're doing their job in a way that's going to make it easy for the next person to come in. So there's your order right there, in order of priority, in chronological order of how it's supposed to be done. So that covers our remodeling system. That concludes module 10. Our next module, we're going to be going into the sale of the property. Once you have completed all of those processes that we've gone through to this point, and your product is complete, now it's time to put it on the market and let it shine. So we're going to go over important points to make sure that it appeals as much as possible to your potential buyers and that you sell your property quickly. I will see you guys in module 11.